I think it'll be interesting to see how this game is played and how it turns out, because my experience is that every time you play a school from this league, there's one thing you're going to be sure of. They're going to be physical, they're going to be tough, and they're going to play you hard all the way to the end. I've got great respect for that league and how they play football. This team has shown in their first 3 games that they can move the ball. They're averaging way over 400 yards a game. They're averaging right at 36 points a game. They run the spread. They throw it good. They've got a 2-quarterback system. They're playing 2 quarterbacks. One's a little bit bigger, probably throws a little bit better. The other one still throws it just fine, but he's a little bit more of a runner, scrambler. So you have to have 2 defensive game plans going in. They haven't played anybody that runs the kind of offense that we run yet, so it's kind of a guessing game on how they're going to play defense against our offense too. So going in the game, we don't know exactly what to expect, other than that they'll be tough. They're big too. They're big, strong, and physical football team, and they'll be tough. Any team from that league is tough.
Juwan mentioned last year that you guys, after big wins, and then kind of the letdown that you guys had, and that's a thing that those guys that were here last year really are focusing on, like focus on the game.
I hope that's true, because you never know. I mean, you never know how a team's going to show up. Even sometimes practice doesn't even give you an indication. We didn't practice all that well last week, and we played pretty well. Practiced really well the first week of the season before the first game, and I mean, we played all right, but not real good.
Rocky, how concerned are you that your guys might be distracted by the big win last week or the big opponent the following week in Boise State?
Well, I don't think the following week, because we have a bye week. That's not even on their mind. I hope they're mature enough to handle a win like we had and move on to this game, because if they're not mature enough to handle that, we're in trouble.
So, Coach, I talked to one of the players at EMU, and he said this game, along with their game against Purdue, is one of those games they circle on the calendar. So how do you go from being the underdogs last week to being like the team that's revered this week?
I don't think our team doesn't see it that way. Our team sees it as a very good football team coming here to play us. Now, we've played Northern Illinois from their league the last 2 years, and Northern Illinois was maybe the most physical and toughest football team we've played the last 2 years. And we really struggled in the game to win it. And I think Northern Illinois last year, when those 2 teams played, won in overtime. Beat Eastern Michigan in overtime, so we're going to get the same caliber of team.
How different is your kicking situation? I remember 8 years ago you said, I don't even know if we have a guy that can make an extra point, so we're going to have to go for 2, to having John, who's, I mean, 54-yard field goal guys, you know, clutch on pretty much, you know.
We got the best of both worlds. We've got a really good kicker, and he tells me when he can make it and when he can't. So, I mean, and he's honest about it. So I go to him and I say, can you make it from here? And if he says no, we either punt it or go for it. If he says yes, we send him in the game. And so far, he's been right every single time. So, you know, he's been around a while, and he's been a good kicker for us for a long time.
He mentioned that he actually came up to you and he said, I heard he hates kickers. And then you said, no, I don't hate kickers. I just hate bad kickers. So what was that conversation?
Well, I don't remember that conversation exactly, but I love good kickers, yeah. You know, when you have a kicker that is out there to make a 30-yard field goal to win the game and he misses, it kind of ruins it for about 150 people. So I think they're extremely important to the game, any success that you have. But if you're a bad kicker, and like you said, was it 8 years ago? We haven't had to worry about it too much here lately, so I hadn't thought. But we had a kicker one time; he couldn't make an extra point most of the time, so we just went for it every time. Made the decision really easy, and then John makes our decision really easy now. Can you make it from there? Nah, coach, the wind's blowing the wrong way. Can't make it from there. Okay, punt. Can you make it from there? Yeah, coach, I can make it from there. He was complaining yesterday to me when I called him up this time. I told him it was 52 yards, and then he went out on the field and it was 54. So, so he was complaining about me not getting him the right distance.
That's like not clubbing a guy.
I know, I messed that up. But it was really the press box that told me it was 52. And then I walked out there and I said, "Did you guys know it was 54?" And they went, "Oh, no, we thought it was 52.
How quickly, he's been here 3 years now, how quickly did you develop the trust in him?
Oh, I mean, when he came in, he was a good kicker. And if you look in his past when we recruited him, I'm not exactly sure on this, but pretty close, this is the truth. I think he was on the national 18 and under soccer team, the national team. So not only was he a talented kicker, he had been in stressful situations many times before. It's not like a guy that hasn't been in a tough athletic situation before. He has, because he was a quality athlete.
Have you ever trusted a kicker as much as you've trusted him in all your years coaching?
Oh yeah, I had one other one I trusted just as much. And he was at the end of the year he was named an All-American, so I hope that happens with John too.
So that same defensive lineman I talked to, he said that the biggest thing that they struggle with is against the run. And you look at the numbers, they're allowing about 230 yards a game. Is that much a more advantage to you guys in the run game? Do you expect a big game from the running game?
Well, for us to win, we're going to have to run the ball well. Now, if you look at, and this is a typical team from that league, they're huge. They're huge up front on offense, and they're huge up front on defense. And you know the size they have on defense, they have some quality linebackers too. That lends you to believe that they can play against the run pretty well. People have been running the ball against them out of the spread. So it's purely a number system. When you have to move guys out there for coverage, they have more blockers than they have defenders at the line of scrimmage. And so they've been going against the spread, and they've been moving guys out there for coverage, and people have been taking advantage of a numbers advantage in the box, so to speak. We don't provide that kind of challenge. They can put as many in the box as they want to because we're all in there too. We don't have them spread from sideline to sideline. So it's a completely different running game that they're playing against this week than they have in the past.
Speaking to that, seeing what Chase did at the end of the game, despite the fumble, but seeing what he did to have that, really see what he could do in a stressful situation. I mean, how much confidence do you have in your second running back?
Well, I mean, he proved that we already had the confidence in him. That's why he was the backup, but he proved it to everybody else that he's a quality running back. So the tradition continues, which is a good deal, where you have a starter and a backup that both can play. That's a great tradition to have.
Did you think it was a fumble when you saw the replays?
I couldn't tell on game day. Now, I watched the replay on TV, and that was not a fumble. So instant replay is not infallible.
It's pretty bang-bang play.
Yeah, it was pretty bang-bang. And my opinion is, and it seems to be the way this works out, what they call on the field, they'll stick with if they're not sure. Now, I'm prejudiced. It looked pretty sure to me that he was down before they yanked the ball out of there. That looked pretty good to me, but that's not the way they saw it, so they ruled it a fumble.
How difficult is it in that situation? I mean, his instinct's just to keep going and going, right? Even though, because he gets past for the first down, he could have just gone down and hit good. But.
Well, it's been a long time since I carried a football, but he had no idea he'd made the first down. So when you're running in a crowded situation like he was, and he wanted to make the first down, he didn't know when he had made it. So he was getting as many yards as he could get before he actually hit the ground.
The nature of that run was pretty impressive, right?
That he was going for the extra yards and all that, yeah.
Well, and just the nature of it, and what he did during that run was impressive.
He'd made some really good runs up to that point too, though. So you'd seen his ability.
Could you talk about Kiava's early season success? He's leading the teams in tackles for loss, and sacks. What is he doing so well?
Well, I mean, he's a good player. Anytime you have a good player out there that reacts correctly and has instincts, they make plays. You know, you don't know the story. Last year he hadn't started around here, and last year we had some injuries, and we put him in the game, and then it made us all look bad because he should have been playing all along. But sometimes you don't see things in practice that actually happens when it's game time, and Keava's a really good player, so he's having a great year so far.
So do you think he made a big jump from sophomore to junior, or do you think he's been like this for a while now?
Well, I don't know. As soon as we put him in the game last year, he played like he is right now, so it was probably a coaching error.
The final ASU touchdown, it looks like your goal was not to give up a big play and they could gain yards and take seconds off the clock, which is, was that the goal, or were there some things on which the defense can improve in that particular?
No, they obviously, when they got the ball with 4 minutes left in the game, the idea was to make them inch it down the field so that they would end up with no time on the clock even if they scored. That was the goal. Now, we don't normally play defense that way, even though we do practice some of that. We don't normally play defense that way. So obviously our guys made some mistakes while they were playing. Soft coverage means that everything that is thrown deep, you're over the top of. So when you come to the ball, you're coming forward or back toward the line of scrimmage, so you get good side of the football. Well, that's not exactly what happened. I mean, there were some deep throws that were over the top. Now, we did make them inch it down there, and they did take a lot of time off the clock. And if the fumble is not a fumble, we're taking a victory. We're getting a victory formation, taking a knee. That's not the way it turned out. But the instant replay saved us later, too.
Speaking to that, do you think the Pac-12 is going to petition the Sdsu and the rules committee next year on changing that play and kind of how it shook out with the targeting call, I guess?
I don't know how they can change the way they call it. You mean
Like,
because it was targeting, it's a complete pass just because it was
like
targeting?
A spot foul or something, like a spot foul kind of thing.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. I think the NFL is going to go to the college rule on interference and that sort of thing.
Is there any advantage, because there was a stat that I saw where EMU hadn't played in California in about over 10 years or something. So the guy said that they're literally traveling here on Thursday just to get an extra day to get adjusted to the time zone, because essentially their bodies are going to be playing the 10:30 time zone. So do you see that as any advantage at all? Just them having to adjust?
I don't see. I've been around a long time. That's all made up stuff. I mean, I can remember coaching at a school that was at 7,500 feet, and a team from Hawaii came there to play, and they were losing, and they couldn't catch their breath. Well, 2 years after that, they came to the same school that was at over a mile high, and they were playing really good, and they never got tired. So I think that these are in-shape athletes that can perform at any level and any time frame, no matter what the situation is. That's good reasoning, though, I guess. Scientifically, that's good reasoning. But actually, as a football player, it means nothing.
Rocky, did you hear Manny Wilkins' interview after the game and his thoughts about the Aztecs' defensive backs?
I didn't. I was told about it.
He said that the defensive backs were garbage. I was just wondering if you'd ever heard anything back from ASU or from Manny in any form of an apology in any way?
No.
Rocky, a couple of years ago, you talked about your offensive line then and how young they were, but that they had the potential to one day be pretty good. How close are they now to realizing that kind of potential?
Well, I mean, you can take it game by game. First game they played okay. Second game they played terrible. This last game they played really good. So I'd say they're a very inconsistent group with potential.
Rocky, there's been a handful of high schools that have forfeited games and conceded games early due to a lack of players. Have your recruiting teams noticed fewer players out there, or is the depth of pool talent becoming less because there's fewer high school players available?
I've read about that and heard about that, and that's in our business. That's really a sad thing. I don't see it so far. It has not reduced our recruiting list. We have as many names on that list as we've ever had. But I'm sure if it continues this way, I'm sure you're going to see a difference sooner or later.
And have your recruiters seen a similar thing in other states? Like, I know you recruit Texas a lot. Are they struggling with numbers in other states, or is it a California thing, or do you know?
No, I think that's it's in pockets throughout the country. It's not in Texas. But I've read, I read all the things I can about that sort of thing, and I know back east and back in the Maine, New York, all that area, I think they're having the same issues.
And do you think it's related to the CTE, all the discussion of CTE over the last couple of years?
I think it's related to parents being nervous about letting their young men play football. Yeah.